public transport. Actually, it wasn't even called the integrated public transport. I can't even remember the terminology, but anyway, it was geared at ensuring that, the public transport, as we see today, had dedicated right of way so that people can get to work on time and back home on time, so that they could enjoy quality lifestyles. It was at the time when we were preparing for the FIFA 2010 World Cup. I was right at the forefront of that of that project. It was at a time when we were starting to catch up on non-motorized transport and building walkways for people to cycle and walk to work. So it was really exciting to be in that space. And I must say that my experience in the city of Johannesburg, which was a good 8 years, is what prepared me for the roles I then took on later on, which was head of department in Ekurhuleni. And then I joined a global tech company, Uber Technologies, before I then joined Transcend. So it's a mixed bag of experience. I mean, with a mixed bag of projects. But most importantly, again, coming back to what we're here to talk about, which is visible and authentic leadership. I think that we could not have been in government at a better time then than now, which enabled us to be where we are today and achieve the kind of things that we achieved. These are tangible stuff. I mean, when I drive around the city of Johannesburg with my kids, I'm able to say, we started that bus system, we built that bridge, we built that road, etc., etc. So I'm really excited to share my experience with the rest of the audience.
Thank you very much, Yolisa. I mean, this is quite insightful. There are questions already, but before we do that, I would like to acknowledge the SAGA leadership in our midst, the National Executive Committee leaders. I would like to acknowledge the SAGA Women's Commission Chairperson, Umama Flora Maboa Boltzmann, supported by the Provincial Women's Commission chairpersons, and all protocol observed. So before we go on, we have a question in the Q&A from Fina. I would like to. She says her question is: we are going to the local election very soon, but yet we have not started the campaign. And how would the 60% be obtained? So that, Yolisa, is specifically aligned to the mandates of SAGA. So I'm not going to ask you to respond to that. However, as I've mentioned, we've got the SAGA leadership in our midst. Can I ask my dear leaders, as well as also the participants, that any question related to the SAGA work and mandate, I'll respond to them towards the end of the webinar. And then can we please use this very critical 90 minutes as well, just to engage with you, Lisa. I will also share my contact details because, as I've mentioned already, the area of consular inductions is in my space. But in this capacity this morning, I'm here as a moderator and representing and facilitating this webinar. And in our chat, we don't have questions. Can I ask that if you have questions, participants, that you actually put them in the chat box? Yolisa, you gave us a very comprehensive experience in terms of how you started with your academic life, the chosen career, and that you said it's a calling. And as women leaders, we find ourselves struggling to break the ceiling, struggling to also find our chosen career. Some of our leaders in our midst are elected, some of them are appointed, and there is a huge responsibility that comes with being given that responsibility. Can you share with us in terms of your understanding of how should we show up as leaders in terms of having this gravitas with regards to executive presence? Because we show up differently when you are an elected leader and when you are an appointed leader.
Good question, Toby. Let me start by saying that one of the most important, and maybe I'm saying this selfishly so because I've worked in a municipal environment, for the longest of time, and then I jumped to a state-owned entity. So I've interacted with guys at the provincial level and national level, but where you get your hands dirty, it's at a municipal level. For me, and this is based on my experience, that if you want to register tangible and visible results at a municipal level is where you should be. So the municipal level carries then the weight of government. And again, I'm saying this because it's based on my experience. When I look at my experience in the city of Johannesburg as a junior, it was very important that we were surrounded by visible leadership. And indeed, and luckily for us, that was the case. These were leaders that were not, so when we say visible leadership, it goes beyond being there in person. And being there in person is very important. I'll speak to that based on a different work experience that I have. But it's very important for visible leadership. It's to commit to lead a culture that subscribes to the vision and the mission of that organization, right? So at a municipal level, we were all about service delivery. We would go on an annual basis, we would have imbizos, we would go to every ward and would listen to people. That's well and good, it looks good on paper. But what matters the most was that how are you then led to implement these objectives that you discussed with your constituents, which were members of the community, so that by the time you come back the following year, you have some credibility. You're able to say, I was able to do this, I was not able to do that. So for me, visible leadership is about exactly that. It's about taking everyone with you, bringing them to buy into the agenda, and then helping everyone to participate and create an environment that is inclusive so that people own this vision. It's not, it was never the mayor of Johannesburg's vision. It was the people of Johannesburg's vision, which was mandated to the governing party at that time. But we were lucky enough to have leaders that understood that for us to be able to achieve this, I need to be a leader that is visible. I need to be a leader that is inclusive. I need to be a leader that listens to other people's views, and a leader that is diverse in its views and enables diverse conversations to take place so that we can achieve on our mandate. And let me tell you why all-inclusive is important to me. At the time when I was at the city of Johannesburg, the head of department was a white male, very, very well experienced engineer and renowned in the country. And he took us under his belt. We were lucky enough, there was about 3 of us that he really groomed and helped us to hone in our skills. But I actually never knew. You kind of assume that because he's a white male, he's a DA, he can never be an ANC. But the manner in which he conducted himself, you just could never tell what party this gentleman belonged to. And we actually got to learn that at the end of the day, when you are talking service delivery, depending on who's at the helm, they will register those gains. But most importantly, it's about the person on the ground who's supposed to be benefiting from that service delivery. Again, if I talk a little bit further about visible leadership, in the company that I worked for before I joined Transnet, this was Uber Technologies. Uber is a huge company. It's a global company. The CEO at Uber, every Tuesday, every week without fail, would address us, all of us across the world. It would be in the morning in the US and obviously late in the evening in South Africa. And in those meetings, Tobile, he spoke about the good, the bad, and the ugly. He brought us in. Even at times when he was not in a compromised position, it would happen that the previous week he had an interview, he said something he wasn't supposed to say. He would stand in front of us. He said, I would tell us, I erred on this one. It was a misjudgment. This is what I said. I can only understand that what I said may have affected some of you because we were a diverse work group. Some were Americans, some were Black Americans, some were South Africans. It was all sorts. But, for somebody to stand in front of you on a weekly basis and bring you in on the dealings of the business, that's a kind of leadership we need, because then, again, most importantly, you get to walk with them. You get to be part of solving the problem. You get to be part of ensuring that, you know, we are progressing in whatever we are doing in an organization. So I find unfortunately that all of those attributes that make great leaders are becoming less and less important. But what we're seeing quite rampantly is what I would call selfish and self-serving leadership. But we can get into that much later, and I hope we do. But that's just the, you know, my understanding of what visible leadership is about, Thobile.
Thank you very much. You've touched on a very significant topic, visible leadership. And I really would like to pose a challenge to our participants who are actually leaders in terms of encouraging them to share with us how have they applied visible leadership? How have they, over the years, been able to make sure that they are visible in their leadership and that their followers are able to embrace the kind of leadership style that they have. You said that visible leadership is not about presence. And I find this very interesting in these times of COVID-19 pandemic, where before we relied on being in the same space, same meeting rooms, same boardrooms, and now we are being challenged by yourself to be visible in a virtual environment where we are having, we are seeing in municipalities, council meetings being convened virtually. So we have a new way of being visible. And before you proceed with the different styles of leadership that can enhance our executive presence, please can you also share with us what are the barriers that could impede our ability as leaders to become visible? And I am also encouraging once again our participants to please, leaders, share with us based on Yolisa's experience. She's talking about the fact that, you know, it takes a leader, a senior executive leader or a leader to share the vision of the organization, to embrace it. But it also took a different kind of cultural and gender diversity that was able to create that conducive environment. She also mentioned the municipal space that we are all living within. It is a very complex space. In the previous two seminars, we spoke about the environment we're leading within the challenges. So please, can you share in the chat? I mean, you can start, Mama Flora Maboa Boltzmann. This is your space. How? I mean, I know that you are visible in the work that you're doing for the SAGA Women's Commission, but also share with us, just to kickstart, how you have embraced the good, the bad, and the ugly. I think this is powerful. All three of them are interrelated. We want to know more about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Thank you.
Should I answer a question, Thobile?
Yes, you can proceed while we wait for our participants.
Okay. What are the barriers to becoming leaders? Let me start by saying, you know, when I take on the next position, it's either two things. It's either I get invited to join because there's a sense of understanding of what my skill set is, or I apply. But I'm very honest with myself. I don't take things because it's an advancement in my career, or it's going to give me a bigger and a better salary. I always start with, would I be serving my purpose in this role? Why am I taking it? Because for me, it's never about the title. I mean, honestly, that if we could move into that space of leading without titles, that would be great. Because more often than not, they stand in the way. People are fixated about being called HOD or ED or whatever. I start by being Yolisa Kane. It starts and it ends there. So I select my roles carefully because I'm wary of the purpose I'm going to serve in that organization. If I'm unable to serve the organization and the organization is unable to serve me, I let it pass. If I have no value to add in the organization, I let it pass. I'm clear in my mind that another opportunity that will help me ascend to my true and authentic power shall come. So I'm never really worried about the next gig, if I may call it that. For as long as it speaks to serving my purpose, then I take it on. But I also believe that what stands in the way is compromising our values. I've seen this so many times in our municipal space, that people get swallowed in the agenda of the day, and they compromise their values. You know, my previous mayor once said to me, what I bring to an organization is who I am. If at that point it's no longer serving the organization, I'm happy to leave with myself and the skill set that I brought, which will be identified and be of good use elsewhere. So I never have to worry about that, which is why it is important that you maintain your strong values, because without those, you're unfortunately going to be shunted around from one corner to the next. And by the time you wake up, your term has ended, you have not achieved anything. So it's very important for me that you understand your purpose and the purpose of the organization that you're going to be serving. You need to have a good sense of strong values, because that environment is extremely challenging. As an official or an administrator in a municipal environment, as the head of department, I reported to the city manager, who reported to the mayor. So invariably, the mayor was also my boss. I then had a member of the mayoral committee in charge of my portfolio. And then there was the Section 79. And then there was the mayoral committee. And then there was council. And then there was communities. Where in the world would you find one person reporting to 6 people and still maintain their sanity? So it's very important that you keep a check on what is it that you are able to offer, and offer that to the best of your ability, because if all else fails, that's what you are left with. Establishing relations is very important for me, and I find that if you walk into an environment, it's all about you want gains so that you as a person shine, and you don't care about everyone else, then you weaken the system. Right? Because within a municipal environment, there's housing, there's transport, there's water and electricity, but one weak link dismantles the entire chain. So it's important that you maintain good relations. And let me tell you, and let me give you an example of where this was tested for me. So I come from the city of Johannesburg. Johannesburg was far more advanced than the city of Ekurhuleni. And I say this with much respect for the leaders that led me at that time. They really did a fantastic job. But I walk in, Ekurhuleni is 6 years late in terms of implementing its bus rapid transit system. I walk in, the mayor says, I want this thing to run the following year. I look at him and I had to be honest to say, you can't. Even with the best of intentions, you can't. You don't have the budget. National Treasury has taken a budget because you failed to perform, and there is no plan in place. So let's go back to the basics. If you support me and help me in helping everyone understand what this project is about, we're likely to have the project delivered in, I think we had said 2016, roundabout there. The political footwork that I had to do with my mayor and the city manager to get the buy-in of even the councillors coming from the same party about the same project was amazing. It was out of this world. That's when you realize that, we can be technocrats, but if in our delivering our duties, you don't check whether the people that you are supposed to be assisting in terms of service delivery understand what you are trying to do. And if they don't understand, bring them along. If you don't have that kind of patience, then you shouldn't be in a leading position at all. The second issue I had to deal with was the taxi operators in Ekurhuleni, who were using examples across South Africa to say, this is what they got in Joburg, this is what they got in Cape Town, we want the same, or else there will be no BRT in Ekurhuleni. Again, you can't walk into an environment full of taxi operators who've been operating the taxi system before you were born and walk in and tell them that I've got a degree in this, I've got a master's degree in this, I know this, and you don't know it, and you think you're going to win. So establishing relationships for me is extremely critical. This is where you learn to sleep with your enemy, by the way, if I can put it crudely. This is where you learn to put your emotions aside and bring people along and make sure that you have a buy-in if you want to implement anything successfully in the municipal space. Self-discipline is another one that usually stands in the way. And I'll be honest with you, Tobile, I mean, I got to Ekurhuleni. Ekurhuleni's budget for BRT was 0. And I assembled a team, and by the time we're done, we had at least a confirmation of a 3 billion rands budget from 0. Now you can only imagine that everyone now is now woken up that there's a 3 billion rands budget, and so how does this money get spent? And everyone was just in your case about this project. All of a sudden, coming from a place where nobody cared and nobody was bothered, to everyone wanting to know, what are you doing with 3 billion? And the fact that I had consultants and contractors upon contractors, and I was making them millionaires, and never did it dawn on me that any of this money should go into my pocket. And I say this with pride. And the interesting thing is that in that environment, everyone thinks that you're corruptible. So they think that you're open to a conversation around such things. Again, because of self-discipline, I was able to lead these contractors and these businessmen and businesswomen. I watched them actually really grow and flourish. And it had nothing to do with me. I was not in that space. Mine was to make sure that there was a proper execution of the project. So it's not one thing, by the way, Tobile, or not one attribute that makes you a successful leader. It's a combination of things, and it's very important that you keep a pulse check on any of these things if you want to be an authentic leader. And you've got to remember, and I didn't understand this until I was in a much higher leadership position yourself. What you do and how you behave in that position actually sets the agenda for the people below you. It can either make it attractive for them to strive to be where you are, or they can wash their hands and say, I never want to be in that position. And in a municipal environment where there's a lot of work to be done, I found that sometimes the municipal environment became so toxic that young graduates would opt to rather be in the private sector as opposed to joining the municipal environment, which is where their skill was needed the most.
Thank you, Yolisa. So insightful. There's a lot that you've touched on. We have 3 questions and comments in the chat. While I give you time to reflect, as well as our participants, I'll come back to your key insights. We have Phyllis. We have Mama Flora greeting everyone. We also have Phyllis saying good morning. Oh, sorry. Can I flag the program, which is done already? We have Imelda saying, I'm inspired of the way you have moved in the industry and the way in which Yolisa, managed to inspire us all, being true to self and values you bring, what you bring as an individual. We have Tabisa saying, thanks, Yolisa, for this. Can you share with us some of the ways in which we can move, we can be more visible, even without being physically present in our offices? Tobile mentioned how with COVID-19, we have had to show up somehow physically distant from each other. We also have Linaj Malachi saying she thinks COVID-19 lockdown exposed us to other strategies of communication. As you would know, that we relied on physical meetings, but print media was highly used, and we're able to reach many of our communities, especially those who do not necessarily like to attend public meetings. We received so much input and ultimately resolved that even if we are going to still convene physical meetings, but we believe that social and print media made us successful in reaching out to many of our communities. The last one also, Yolisa chats coming up is buzzing. The next one is coming from Phyllis again, saying this engagement is so encouraging and it's inspiring, especially to us young women still growing within local government space. Can you share the recording of this session? Yes, we will do that after this engagement. We have Nosi Pombuku saying, very interesting, Yolisa. How did you deal with criticism and male dominance in your various portfolios? So there's two questions there. The first one I've already gone through. We have Palisa Moloi saying, thanks for your presentation. The third question, Yolisa, is how were you received and treated when you showed that you are not corrupted or corruptible? This is what most of us struggle with in local government space. So we have 3 questions for you to reflect on.
How did I deal with criticism? It happens all the time. I mean, it would be naive of you to think that because you experience it in the city, the next job, you're not going to receive criticism. It happens all the time. But your focus should never be on the criticism. It should be the goal at hand. I knew in Ekurhuleni that what we need, remember Ekurhuleni is a unique municipality. Joburg has got one CBD. Ekurhuleni has a couple of CBD and 9 towns. It's a combination of a whole lot of things. I knew then that if we didn't focus on what needed to be done, this poor municipality, which has a whole lot of potential, I mean, it's got the international airport in its midst, is going to miss the opportunity of reforming itself and being counted amongst the best cities in the country. So I focused on the job at hand. I used to get criticism even from my mayor. And I mean, he would walk into mayor. And again, you have to understand where that person is coming from. For me, that's always my starting point. What's informing somebody's behavior? Because it makes me better understand and equips me better in dealing with them. The criticism was not always warranted, but you get to a point where you just have to shrug it off. Okay, cool, I got a beating today. Was it justified? Maybe not. If it's justified, there's no other way but to go back and to clean up the mess. I mean, I don't know everything. I got a whole lot of things wrong, but I got a whole lot of things right as well. And also, when the way I dealt with my team, I always put them at the back. I took the beating. I took all the scars, because not that I didn't want them exposed to that, but I knew that if all of us took the same kind of beating, I'll be left with nobody to run the project. So I was the sacrificial lamb, and I guess that's what happens when you're a leader. So criticism is not something that should worry you much. And again, like I said, sometimes it's warranted. If it's warranted, be honest with yourself, fix your mess. If it's not, it's another bad day, but being course, there's not much you can do. You don't have control over how people are going to deal with you on that particular day, but never lose focus of what needs to be achieved. The issue around male dominance, I was lucky in a way, because my profession was male dominated. Even from class, there were more males than females. So you forget, you never see yourself as a woman in a sea of males. You just become like one of them, quite honestly. And so it's going to be an unfair question, because that's all I know. I've always been a minority in class, at work, that I literally forgot about the fact that I was a female. I remember my secretary one day saying to me, do you realize that in all these meetings, you are the only female? And I was like, oh yeah, by the way. But remember, as much as I am all for women emancipation and all of that, but I mean, it goes beyond just being a woman. If you're smart, you're smart. If you're capable, you're capable. It's just unfortunate that we never get the recognition, and sometimes the parity, or there's a lot of disparity when it comes to male and female professionals. But again, and let me tell you something, sometimes you just have to bulldoze your way into things. I like the fact that I've got a very dumb and naive personality. I walk in like a child. I block my ears from all the noise, and I get on with the business of the day. Even in Ekurhuleni, where really our experience was needed, there were people who thought that we had come in to build our empires and all of that. You just have to close your eyes and bulldoze your way in. And there'd be tough days where I'd sit and say to myself, why am I here? Why am I not, I don't know, in some or other private sector? But you know what, like I said, for me, it felt more like a calling than a job. So you stick it through. It was what it was, and it continues to be that way, by the way. I mean, sometimes you feel like, you know what, today is not my day, let me silence myself, but it's not okay, which is why it is important that leaders must build safe environments where everyone is free to talk and free to do their job. They might not get things right all the time, but people must be free to execute. How were you received and treated look, I mean, like I said, sometimes people are apprehensive because they don't know whether this person is going to be towing the line with them or not towing the line with them. The way I dealt with the advances that were sometimes made around the project, and I mean, I don't need to be explicit about it, is the fact that I was just clear that this is what the policy and this supply chain and the PFMAs and the MFMAs allow me to do. Anything outside of that, I'd be happy to step back and you do it yourself. And I meant this without disrespecting anybody, but I knew that if I faltered, my career would be on the chopping block, no one else's career. And remember, if you mess up my career as Yolisa Kani, you're not just messing up my career, you are killing my children's future. So I got that with all my life. So I stood in my principles, I stood in my values, I produced things that were factual and within what was permissible, and I moved on with my life. But I knew, I must be honest with you, I knew that I wasn't going to last. I knew that chances are, no matter how good I was, my career was not going to be long-lived. So I took the decision to leave before my contract ended. And the unfortunate thing about that is that the team that I built with me followed suit, and they left and they went to different places, which then dismantled everything that we had started when I started in Ekurhuleni. It's rather unfortunate. That's one of the things that still makes me sore up until today. But you know what? I had to choose between not having a job or just finding something that can, where I can continue to serve whatever purpose I was meant to serve at that particular point in time. Please don't, I want you to understand, if you can survive government and the municipal environment, you can survive the corporate world. Nothing gets to that level of complexity. Nothing gets to that level of demand. So I always say to young people, you have to go to the private sector, you have to get the technical skills, but you have to come back to government because it's very interesting, it's very complex, and it's character building as well.
Thank you very much, Yolisa. We have also, while I just give you a break, we have some questions and some comments from, let me just show you. We have Linaj saying that you are such an inspiration, Yolisa. We are truly encouraged. You are just reminding us to keep our integrity. We have Fina saying, wow, we are proud of you, Yolisa. We would like all technocrats to all sectors to work tirelessly like you so that our departments can function well. We also had, I think we've covered everything. There was a question on Q&A. I'm not sure where that question has gone. Can I please have it back? While you're going to get to the next level, there is something that that is very significant that you've mentioned. There was also a key themes that came around young women leaders who are part of our in our midst, who are also learning a lot from the experiences that is being shared by seasoned leaders. We, as also SAGA, we are promoting the professionalization of local government, but we also, through various initiatives such as the graduate recruitment and placement, wanting to attract the graduates into local government so that we promote local government as the employer of choice, and then also we retain those valuable critical skills. You also mentioned something about bulldozing our way as leaders. And I found that very significant because I had an aha moment. And I think most of the leaders present here would resonate with that. We get appointed to leadership positions and elected, but there's a tendency, I might be generalizing, whereby as women leaders, we wait for permission. Permission to be seen, permission to be promoted, permission to be affirmed. So what you said really is significant to say sometimes we should just bulldoze and go for that opportunity, go for that leadership role, go for that promotion. And what you said as well is you knew without reasonable doubt that your career was not going to last. You knew that it was not long-lived. And can you unpack that for us? Because at some point in our leadership journeys, we always have that aha moment where we know that if we have a 5-year contract, you know that by year 3, it's not going to happen. Or you know at some point, what made you get that feeling? I mean, you're a formidable leader. You've mentioned that you had wonderful leaders guiding you and leading you. You also mentioned a dynamic team that was a game changer, but there was an internal conversation where you sat with yourself and you said, it's not going to last, irrespective of the legacy, irrespective of the 3 billion, irrespective of the dynamic changes that you brought, you knew. Can you share with us? Some of us are seated here this morning feeling like you, and there was a sad moment. I felt it because I can relate, and I think most of the participants felt it. What point makes somebody reach? At what factors made a formidable leader like yourself know it's not going to last, in spite of all efforts, all the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the legacy?
So when I joined Ekurhuleni, I mean, I must tell you, I had a wonderful relationship with the mayor and the city manager. I remember when I resigned, I asked the city manager, how come you never paid attention to me? And he said there was no need. I knew you would get things done. There was no need for me to worry about you. I had to worry about others that I knew that if I removed my eyes from them, things wouldn't happen. But at that time, I was yearning for his attention. And that's when you learn that sometimes those affirmations are not going to come from your principals, not because they're not seeing what you are doing, but because there are other pressing issues and you are not one of them. So ultimately, it became a compliment. But at that time, it's like somebody wanting, a little child also wanting to go into the principal's office. Not just the naughty kids should be there, should be afforded that opportunity. But anyway, I had a great relationship with my mayor and the city manager. And my MMC, and may his soul rest peacefully. And then things changed. There was a change of guard. And my immediate head at that time, political head at that time, I mean, we're forever butting heads. And when you have a leader, you are a leader, you need to acknowledge authority. So I could never take him on in front of my teams, but I had to respectfully say, here you are wrong, here you are not right, you're fine, we can do it this way. But I felt uncomfortable by the things that were being said and the change in behavior. I felt, I mean, it's a lousy statement to be made when you walk into a meeting with a bag, your favorite bag, and somebody says, yes, like, your bag is nice, man. That's where this money of these contractors go, of these projects go. And you kind of look at me, think, I had this bag before I joined Ekurhuleni. What do you mean? But anyway, it's nothing to worry about. And I remember one time I had a tender that had gone out, and it was a section 30, I think we called it section 33, so it would go beyond 3 financial years. This tender went out, and then I went to hike Mount Kilimanjaro, so I was not accessible. I submitted, I came back to the base where there was a network availability, and my phone was ringing off the hook. And everybody wanted to know something about this tender, but I never got involved in those things. I mean, but with the nature of the conversations, and I'm just giving you one example, the nature of the conversations was such that we needed to go and engage with the tenderers. I was like, it doesn't work that way. But let me also help you understand how a Section 33 works. And I got my legal team to put together a nice document. Now you have to educate people that you assumed know what this thing is about and how it runs. And again, you must never make those assumptions. But then it was constant. And if things were not going the way the person wanted, there was constant attacks. And when you are being attacked in front of your team, day in, day out, you get tired. You kind of know that this person, obviously there's no meeting of minds, not that the work is not being done, it's just not being done in the way in which he wants it. And there's absolutely no way he's going to give me a second chance. And I'd rather, because remember what I said earlier on, what I brought to the party was my experience and my skill set. So I knew that with that, I should be able to get another job, and I did. But what hurt me the most was not me leaving. I knew I could leave. I know even today that I've set myself targets. Once I've achieved them, I'm going to have to move on. But what affected me the most is the dismantling of what I had built. Because remember, what I built was not about me. The bus system wasn't coming to my house. I have a car. The taxi operators that were helping to transform, I'm not a taxi operator. It was about them, not about me. So when you dismantle 4 or 5 years worth of work, you're taking us back 10 years. And you're never going to find people with the stamina to withstand what I withstood. You never. So I then knew that I took this flogging. I was happy to do that, but I'm also human. I mean, I'm going to be punched day in, day out, unreasonably so, for how long? As if I've got nothing of value to add elsewhere. So I took that decision. I said to myself, listen, it's now time to go. And I remember going to the mayor, was still the mayor at that time, and the city manager, and to say I'm leaving. And the city manager looked at me and said, I'm really, really sorry to see you leave, but I am encouraging you to leave. And that's how bad these environments had become. When your city manager says, I am doomed without you, but you've gotten an opportunity, it's an scapegoat, take it. And 3-4 months down the line, he was out, the mayor was out. And I mean, I saw a picture on Facebook yesterday of the command center that I had built. And I checked where's the command center now? Things are hanging, the TVs are no longer on the walls, and I want to tell you something. If you are a political leader in that space, we need to choose whether we are serving our people or we are serving ourselves. It can never be both. It made our lives so difficult. And you can't go into work scared of who's going to be shouting at you today and for what reason. It disables you, it disarms you. Who wants a fearful leader at the end of the day? So, I mean, I had those conversations with myself, and I was really scared. I wasn't sure when I was going to get another job, and I was one of those lucky ones who got it immediately. But there's no continuation. That's what it means. There's no continuation. Whoever came after me, I mean, it was a long gap between me and the next HOD. And a year later, she was also gone. I can never tell you what's happening there. It's one of those cases where sometimes with a hand on your heart, you close the door, you walk, and you never look back.
Thank you very much. We currently at 10 o'clock, we have 30 minutes to engage with you. Currently, we have 65 participants. So I would really like to then, address few comments and give it over to you for the rest of the message that you have for us. And then round about 10:25, I would then like to, have closing remarks so that there's some very burning question I want to ask you as closing remarks. We have Buli Khanyaza, who posted on the Q&A saying, Yolisa, you have made my day. My colleague has been saying this. Leadership visibility, meaningful contribution is key. Thanks for this message. We also have a message that went to all panelists. It's so inspiring to get experience such selfless leadership. The webinars and the leadership training are really inspiring. I'm getting out of this as a better person in all aspects. Pearl is saying, this is great, Ms. Gani. I'm taking a few things from this talk. The self-discipline and servant leaderships are key. There's another message. We are indeed inspired by your testimony. I like your honesty, that you realized that you had overstayed your welcome and took a conscious decision to leave. You went to where you were valued and appreciated. This teaches us that we don't need to stay if it cost us our peace and sanity. Your impact was felt more when you left that void. I like the fact that you choose whether you serve yourself or the people. Go girl, I admire your bravery. Pateka Kwabe posted and said, she's so inspired. I'm at that space right now where you wake up and think about one man who is hell-bent at undermining you irrespective of the work that you do. As I hand over to you, please reflect. There was a question from Linaj around, being visible during the COVID times, and how can we utilize print media and social media to engage our communities. Over to you for the rest of the message that you have for us, Yolisa.
Thanks. I forgot to answer that question. Sorry about that. COVID-19, there's the good about it, and there's the and valuable lessons that we need to take from it, and there's obviously the bad about it. The bad was the fact that we're so used to doing things in a particular way. We are social beings. Take that. Don't take that away from us. We still want to see each other, but the environment was not allowing. But let me tell you about something that happened to me now in December, or in January rather, that I felt it was important to do. So in January, I tested positive with COVID. It turns out that 3 of my colleagues and 3 others at EXCO have also tested positive. Now, these are 4 members at EXCO that are experiencing what our coal-face employees are experiencing on a daily basis, who are working at the ports. They can't work from home. There are people that cannot work from home. Their job descriptions don't allow. And then 3 of my direct reports are also have also tested positive. Some of them are losing their parents and their spouses. Absolute madness. In my little room, worried about whether I was going to make it the following day, I had to make these calls almost every second day and check, so-and-so, are you okay? How are you holding up today? Do you need assistance? Yeah, I'm not coping. The other one, mom passed on today. I'm really sorry. And then the following week, now dad passed on. This is where you have to be a compassionate a leader and imagine yourself in people's shoes. So I think that's the one thing that we, on the one hand, people were dying at an alarming rate that it became so easy to say rest peacefully and then move on to the next condolences. But on the other, when it's too close to home, I found that call, I used to call it a pulse check of calling my guys and asking how they are, really did wonders for them, because it says they really do care. Work does really care about my well-being, because if they're not well, there's no way they want to bring themselves to work. That's the one thing. The other thing, though, is that let's just say everyone was normal. What COVID has taught us is we need to learn to adapt. If you don't adapt, you're going to fall foul of any disruption that comes your way. COVID-19 was a disruption. Technology was a disruption. So I think the biggest lesson that we have learned is that we need to prepare ourselves for something similar. If you look at the risks that we all put together in our business plans, nothing spoke of a pandemic. We really never saw it coming. So it says to you that this thing might live with us for some time, but we can't be experiencing it this year as if we have not learned any lessons in the past 12 months or so. The other thing you need to think about, to be quite honest with you, is that we need to start thinking about, it's here, the future of work. The future of work says, and I experienced this when I was working at Uber, by the way. Uber was that advanced that it didn't really matter whether the weather was at the office or not. What was important is that I had regular engagements with my teams. These were standing weekly meetings where I engaged with my teams, whether I was under a tree or in the park somewhere. It was neither here nor there. Bottom line is there was a way of connecting. So I was used to this. But here's something that you need to think about, especially as government, is with everything, with the advent of technology being pushed our way, we don't have a choice but to be on Zoom calls. What does that say for our relevance? So what is now the future of government under the circumstances, right? Do you need as many and I'm making an example, it might be an extreme example. People are no longer commuting to work and in the same way as they did, as an example. So what kind of infrastructure do we build for commuting? Is it to the same extent as we had envisaged? Do we take this money and put it elsewhere without compromising the quality of our public roads and the public transport infrastructure? Maybe prioritize water and sanitation or housing. I'm just posing a question. The Yolisa that is now employed, who comes to the office 2-3 times a week, what else does she do? Because there's no way of telling what Yolisa does in those other days when she's not at work. It could well be that Yolisa is busy running her catering business. Maybe it's okay. Maybe it's okay that Yolisa has a skill and she can cater and run a small business. But can we then adopt this and accept that, okay, Yolisa, let's agree that I will pay you for 3 days. The other 2 days, you can then hustle and do whatever you want to do. There's nothing, people are more than just what they bring to the office, by the way. So there's so many questions, but most importantly, I mean, to be direct to your question, I've learned that adaptability and the speed at which you adapt was going to be very important. I mean, the things we had to do here at Transnet when we could not operate the ports because people were constantly being, were constantly being infected. And at the same time, you have the exporters saying the nuts and the oranges need to be exported to wherever, and things have to happen. So you need to adapt or you die. But most importantly, you've got to remember that beyond and behind those screens are human beings who are struggling to survive. Now, when I say they're struggling to survive, I'm not talking about a person who's taking advantage of the fact that they're not in front of you. There are those who carried the organization and did 3 times, 4 times the amount of work. I mean, the rate at which we were in Zoom calls and Teams meetings, it was insane. But having said that, I mean, here we are, we've survived. I do think, though, that as much as people are working from home, the need to connect and interact with each other, I think it still needs to be maintained. We had our first Exco last month in person. You should have seen the buzz. You should have seen us talking to each other in corners, catching up with each other. So that's still essential. But I mean, we don't know. This virus is rather unpredictable, but we best be ready to deal with whatever is coming our way next. However, having said that, if you don't build the systems that will help you monitor and check on your guys while still allowing them and trusting that they're doing the job that they're supposed to be doing, you will then wake up and it's the end of the financial year and not much has been achieved.
Thank you, Yelisa. We have Pateka saying she is so inspired. I think I've already read that she's already in that space right now. We have a comment to all panelists saying it's a combination of art, courage, bravery, focus, and resilience, and authenticity. Brenda is saying she is so inspired. This is profound. Power to women, power and leadership. Charmaine saying what an inspiring testimony. Your insights are greatly appreciated. Nozipo is saying, yo Lisa, I'm overwhelmed, very inspiring. You are living and an honest reference that I, for one, can always refer to when dealing with our leadership in our different spaces of operations. We have Tandeka. Let me go. We have Tandeka saying, Saga, I think for starters, we should acknowledge the harm that corruption and lack of ethical leadership is harming municipalities in our country as a whole. The next step would be what needs to be done. Municipalities are the most important sphere of government. If they crumble, there is no South Africa. We have a comment to all panelists and attendees saying the Gauteng metros are speaking about development of smart cities, yet local government is slow on developing a digital economy within its entities. So how do we cultivate strategic leadership and collaboration, leading through networks and leading through structures in the fourth industrial revolution? What is the future of local government leadership in creating successful smart cities? Brenda is saying, this is so inspiring. We still need dedicated people like you, basically women. I so wish that political leaders can also have the same conscience to constantly remind themselves that they are actually serving people, not themselves. You are very brave and a brilliant woman. Bulelwa Rulashe, Yolisa, if nothing else, I wish all women, I mean all, can be comfortable with the discomfort and the price, open bracket cost of being authentic and being people of integrity, not sometimes, but literally all the time. Do not change the essence of who you are because of your audience. Audiences change, but you gotta be you. So you can always meet the same person in the mirror. We must let Yolisa's story inspire us to action. Remember the energy you feel now in 3 to 6 months' time. Mama Flora Moboa Boltzmann says, thank you, Ms. Gani. The fact that your work is a calling says it is all in serving. Yes, local government space is distinct, a very difficult space, yet easy if people there can remember that we have a society to serve. Nice that we have pieces of legislation that guides us. SAGA, on the other hand, provides framework on how to implement those and assist in the understanding of how policies assist us in how we should lead our way to a clean governance. We all as leaders have to uphold what we said when taking an oath at the beginning of each term of office. Ethical leadership here, beginning of each term. Ethical leadership here is important. I'm impressed on how you manage that. Dismantling the good plan in a new term of office is bad. Nomisa is saying, at times we need men to hear these women's stories. Nozibele is saying, thank you, Yoli. I can totally relate, my dear. Been there and have honorable scars. Wow. Nozipo is saying, I didn't hear you commenting about Jwane Arieng. I would love to hear your experience with them as well. Metros need to use women like yourselves to speed up development. Nozibele Makanda is saying local government is in perpetual transition because of the politics are such that what has been achieved in a particular term is associated with the leader instead of the work that needed to be done. New leaders come in, totally reinvent the wheel from from programs, policies to administration. All this hinges around ethics. Celebato says this calls upon politicians to really think of coming up with a different kind of leadership, a leadership that is up to the task and just not being there because they are an elected leader or an elected leadership, a leadership that is really prepared to do its work. We've really had such insightful comments from our participants, as you can see. But what was also just going back to the experience that you shared with us around being exposed to COVID-19, which is something that we can so relate to and resonate with on a personal and professional level. I liked what you said about pass check. Leadership is very daunting. It's very demanding, as you said earlier on about the local government space that we are in. And we need to lead when we are feeling well and when we're not feeling well. And how we show up in times of crisis, in terms of leadership crisis, personal crises, leadership crises, organizational crises mattered. Sometimes we don't even get time to take care of ourselves. And that's been a consistent theme in these webinars that we've been introducing, to say, take care of yourself before you can also take care of others. But you also say that at the end of the day, look back and look at who is following you and what challenges they are facing, which you so eloquently touched on, to say, if you don't have your team, you have no one to lead. You have no one that will assist you to succeed. We need to learn to adapt in these challenging times that you've already shared with us. And you've also challenged us by asking us, what is the future of work? What is the future of government with all these infrastructure-related challenges? We are meeting this morning towards the end of the local government term, 2016-2021. The environment is constantly shifting. We are faced with challenges of reflecting on the good work and the challenges that have been experienced by councillors, by officials, and also the leadership. We are also being challenged to do things differently in the next coming local government term. And I think that is the question that was being posed earlier on in our QA, to say, what have we done to prepare for the next local government term? If we can please then, Yolisa, use this time to share with us, having learned about a lot from your experiences with regards to executive presence, visible leadership, what can we do differently as leaders in the next coming local government term? Sorry, my question was, as we are meeting this morning, we are at the end of the current, or coming closer to the end of the current local government term. A lot of comments has been around challenges that has been experienced in this term, with leadership, with corruption, with challenges regarding ethical leadership. And from the experiences that you've actually shared with us, and the challenge that you've given us as we reflect, you asked us, what is the future of work in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic? You've also asked us to reflect on what is the current future of government, or what is the future of government. As leaders in the sector, there is in transition. We actually in transition from this year, preparing for the next local government elections and the newly elected leadership. What can you share with us in terms of what can we do differently as leaders in this program, with the insights, the knowledge, and the skills that we have learned and shared with one another?
Look, I'll be quick with the little time that's left. So anything that's not done now it's too late. There's nothing that can be done. But I mean, I would advise that don't be shy moving forward to build strong and qualified teams. Don't shoot yourself on the foot. You need the best of skill it would take to deliver the kind of service that people are crying for. And it's there. So when somebody says to me that there aren't any experienced people out there are plenty of experienced people out there. They are so scared of joining a government. Let me give you an example. I watched in dismay, and I don't know the merits of this case, but when PRASA expelled 4 of its newly appointed executives on the basis that they did not perform and they didn't pass their probation period, the question I have in mind is how is it that through an executive search you can get the appointment of 4 executives so wrong? 4. Let's just then say they don't go back, and I believe that the court has ruled that they go back. I don't really know the merits. I'm not saying PRASA was wrong. I'm not in any way saying that. But let's just say these 4 individuals are ultimately dismissed. Who will have the guts to join that organization? Who in their right minds would leave whatever secure environment they're in now, only to be told 6 months later that actually you did not perform? And I'm not talking 1 individual, I'm talking 4. Go and find the requisite skill. It's in universities, it's in the private sector, it is there. And for once, let's forget about everything else. Let's forget about the individuals in the corner and the creeds that they're coming from. Let's think about what is the agenda, what is the mandate, what needs to be delivered. I struggle with basic things. If litter or rubbish is not being collected, somebody takes their litter and puts it outside at their gate or outside of their yard, and somebody needs to come and collect that. How difficult is that? You haven't come into my house to help me collect the rubbish. I've done it for you and I've put it outside of my gate. Yours is to collect. How difficult is that? And my problem with us not fixing things now is that the chasm between the kids that have and the kids that have not, at some point there will be a point of convergence, and it's not going to be a nice meeting. It is going to be a point of conflict. Give us 3-4 years, and it's actually playing itself out at verts. So I always have the end in mind. If you are clear on your end in mind and what needs to be delivered, go build a team that is going to help you deliver that. That's what we did in the city of Johannesburg when we started the transport department. Nobody cared about the color and the whatnots and the gender and the whatnots. We just wanted a team that was going to help us deliver. So you go and do that. But you've got to remember that with each day that goes past and there's ambiguity on what needs to be done, that's a day gone, lost, never shall it be recovered again. So for me, when I work, every single day counts. And again, and I understand where politicians are coming from. Oversight must be oversight. Oversight must hold people to account, but you also need to take time and understand what is it that you have oversight over. You can't come into a meeting with a 5-year plan and nobody tears it apart. How is that possible? That the first time I sit in front of you with a 5-year plan, everyone says agreed, approved. It can't be. Not with the nature of complexity it has. So you've got to engage with these documents because ultimately you own them. That's your tool to deliver the service to your constituents. Then the question around, if I may move swiftly, the question around Tshwane. The Tshwane BRT was led by a lady called Lungile Madlala, and she did an amazing job. And we used to laugh and we used to say the BRTs in Gauteng are under the helm of women. I was in Ekurhuleni and Lisa Sefter was in Joburg. And I mean, we were never in competition about whose BRT system was doing what. In fact, behind closed doors, we used to skin about the DOT and develop tactics of how to fight them with their policies that were not working at times. And we used to help each other with information. Why should I worry when you've already done it and so on, and pass it on to me? And that's a relationship we still have today. And again, I'm not making this about women, but the fact of the matter is the BRTs in Gauteng at that time, where all three of them were being run by women, and they were run very well. The last issue I wanted to leave you with, I really appreciate the commentary, I mean, the praise, and I didn't come here for that, but it's really heartwarming. But if you really wanted to do me any favor, is please be a conscious leader when you go back. And I'm directing this at women in particular. Sometimes we are our own worst enemies, to be quite honest with you. So think about the things that I have said. I'm not saying emulate me, but you have to think about your behavior. What does it do to another young lady who aspires to be in the same position as you? I found in my experience that sometimes, honestly, I'd rather be dealing with men. I have a wonderful female leader, very supportive. I'm lucky in that sense. But I mean, we can really become our own worst enemies at times. So think about what you would want to see from your leader, and be the same to the person that reports to you. You don't need people to carry your bags. You don't need an additional title. If you get a big office, well and good, but then what? Those are not things that define you as a leader. What defines you is the impact that you will have on the people that you are leading, and the things that you are supposed to be delivering. The last thing I wanted to say, nothing peeves me as government people posting on social media about siyakuba, siyasebenza, wara. Kuba sebenza, and nobody needs to know. Because the problem with social media, it starts redefining what it is that we're supposed to be doing. You don't put yourself there when things are not going well. Use that platform for other things other than to tell us that today you are at a mayoral committee meeting and you are reflecting the agenda of that meeting. What does it do to the person that needs water and sanitation? Nothing. So we're glorifying and sensationalizing our positions, and it's sending the wrong message. Here's another thing, and I'm not saying we shouldn't be celebrated because we work in government, but I mean, if you think about it, you're not going to find a person running a big corporate organization on social media, putting those things on social media, but you will find them on the cover of a magazine talking about what it is, that she's driving. Again, I know different people do different things, but it's time to snap out of that social media world. It's time to snap out of it, because it's creating the wrong impression about us government people. Our job is to work, not to be glorified. Those are my parting shots. I'm so sorry I'm ending off on that hard note, but I thought that it's something that I needed to say.
No problem. Thank you so much. Yolisa, 1 minute. I'm going to read the comments quickly. I know we are running out of time, but I cannot let you go without asking you, based on your experience of hiking and summiting Mount Kilimanjaro, what did you learn out there in the wilderness that strengthened your leadership? That when you came down from, summiting the mountain, you said, you know what, I've learned these 3 key leadership lessons. Oh, this is what made me resilient. I'll come back to you as I quickly go through the comments. We have Nomsa saying, thank you very much for sharing this information with us, especially advancing us as our leaders. We should always be available to our community. The caring and support you have given your team when COVID-19 attacked most of your team, including yourself. Yolisa, I'm from there. When you are quarantining alone at home, that's the voice you need to hear. Thank you very much. Kiamo Khetwe is saying accountability in local government is relative. Leaders are rarely held accountable, and we tend to celebrate activities versus outcomes results, evident in the entity scorecards and pertinent key performance indicators. Results-based management is non-existent. Pearl says, I love this. I'm very truly inspired. Thank you. Mayor Flora Maboa Boltzmann says, applauded Ms. Kani. Social media must be used profitably, work not glorified. Tabisa is saying, wow, wow, wow. Your last words are the bomb. If we don't change how we do things after this, and many webinars we have had in this program before, then I don't know what will change us. Nosipo is saying, thank you, Yolisa, for being brutally honest. I take everything. We also have the last comment in our, we have Mabahwe saying leadership must be always have an open door for criticism that will pave a way for becoming good leaders. We also have a comment in the chat, which I'm just going to read quickly. If you just give me a minute. We have a comment that is from Banda saying, what a strong woman. As women, we feel deeply and love fiercely. Our tears flow as abundantly as laughter. You teach the woman, you teach the nation. As you give us your closing remark on your experience that you learned as you summited Mount Kilimanjaro and many other mountains. Thank you. Yes, what experiences?
Look, I learned so much, but let me start with what I learned just last week. So, I mean, you are in camp. The last time we showered was on Friday. You just go to the stream, waterfall, wash your face, and you get on with life. And we took a lot of pictures. And I looked at these pictures like, wow, no makeup, no filter. Man, we are so hard on ourselves. We really judge ourselves harshly. I came back this past weekend with a firm understanding and affirmation that I'm truly a very beautiful woman. But I never have the time to think about that. More often than not, because I'm chasing what I think is bigger things. I'm chasing projects, I'm chasing work. I never get the time to look at the mirror and wonder whether I'm beautiful or not. More often than not, I always look and say, oh my goodness, you know. But I get, and I said this to my friends last night, you know, I'm happy that I've gotten my confidence back. Believe it or not, as strong as we seem, we have our moments of looking at, look at my hair. The day I cut my hair, my brother was on my case. I almost regretted having cut my hair, but then you have to snap out of it and think, this is what I want to look like. What's wrong with that? If it's not long hair, it's if I don't want to wear a wig, that's my prerogative. I'm beautiful nonetheless. So I really fetched myself this past week, because like I said, I took a lot of pictures. I wasn't cleaned up, but the pictures came out nice. Confirmation that actually what we look like is truly about how we feel. It goes back to what do I think? If I think I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful. If I think I'm not, then it's certainly going to be that way. I am what I think. But let's go back to Kili, which was really life-changing. So when you see that mountain, when you see it, you cannot believe that you are going to be going up that mountain. You just cannot be. It's impossible to comprehend. But you know what they do? You take it one step at a time, one step at a time. And what they teach you at night, they talk about today is Wednesday. When we get to camp, they'll talk about Thursday. Now you're curious, you want to know about Friday as well. They go, Today we're talking about Thursday. We tackle Thursday. When we are done with Thursday, then we talk about Friday. And that's how I've basically approached everything. So my mind doesn't, I don't think about today. Yesterday I had to think about today, nothing else but today. When I'm done with, I've got another commitment now at 11. Then tonight I'm going to think about tomorrow. There's absolutely no way I can put everything in this little mind of mine and think I'm going to remain sane with Friday buzzing, Saturday buzzing, Sunday, and all of these things. It's impossible. So you learn to take it one day at a time. It's same with work. Today might be a hard day at work. Concentrate on today. Get it over and done with. Rest, and then let's talk about tomorrow. The other thing I learned from Kili is that experience matters. So those guides, Sherpas is what they call them. When they say it's dress up, but don't dress up too much, because by the time we turn the corner, which is a kilometer down the line, the weather will change. It will become warm and your blood will be warm as well. So you might want to strip. I remember thinking, I'm so cold. And you dress up and you dress up. Lo and behold, around the corner, it's getting warmer. Now you want to change. So people with experience know what they're talking about, because they've done it over and over and over again. So it's worth listening sometimes to an experienced person. I'm not saying take in everything, but experience really does count. But most importantly for me, if you're going to take on an assignment, better be geared to finish it. That and I think 40, if not 60% of people that go to Kilimanjaro, they don't finish. I was not the fittest, but I paced myself. So you get guys that is gora, physically fit, there's nothing that they can't do. They die. Literally, they die. Because it's all about, I want to do this in 3 days and break a record. Kili is about one step at a time. When you're tired, you sit down, you rest, and then you go for it again. Last point, Kili, you start climbing at 12 a.m. for 2 reasons. It is way too big to look at this thing and think you can tackle it. It's impossible. The second thing is it's still frozen, so it's the surface is hard, so it's easy to climb. And going down, by the way, is just as hard because now the ice has melted and it's really, really, really difficult. So I've also learned it's okay not to know where you are going. I'm good at that. I'm good at doing things I don't know. Because once I know and I plan too much, then it becomes scary. Then I don't get it done. So it's okay to be in a position where you feel like I am as bad. One day at a time, and before you even know it, you're halfway. Before you even know it, you are at the top. So those are my available lessons. And then, by the way, I use them every single day of my life.
Thank you very much, Lisa. And I'm just going to read 5 comments and we close. We're running out of time, but I cannot let this go. We're starting with, yes, Nobahle. This is great. Equipped, it's not about position, but impact that one will make on the job. I love this saying a lot about you. If it's not going to impact change, or rather not take it. I learned so much. May Flora Maboa Boltzmann came back saying, keep your hair, we all agree. That way, I like it. Beautiful young sister, extremely African and nice little sister. Bale says, saying you're such a phenomenal woman. Thanks for sharing your experiences and inspiring us. I'm really encouraged. Fina says, wow, I like your hairstyle. Go for it, girl. For climbing Kilimanjaro mountain, I'm following you, but I'm a golfer. I like my sports. Nozibele is saying, thank you, Yoli. You are awesome. You're going places for sure, and I'm so inspired. Then there's 2 questions from Kunjuzwa, comments rather. Thank you, Lisa. All is really appreciated for a woman to understand expectations to women leaders. Johanna Banda says, I humbly request a presentation through email. Thank you very much. Really, once again, on behalf of the SAGA leadership, as I conclude, let me just put this quickly. In terms of the next webinar, we have the next webinar on the 4th webinar that is going to be held. Let me have a look on the 22nd of April, 2021. We are inviting you, leaders, please invite others. We're going to be talking about a very important topic, strategic financial management. Once again, Yolisa, on behalf of the SAGA leadership, presented in this meeting and also in absentia, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you immensely for your contribution and sharing your insight and experience this morning. You've left us with departing a courageous challenge to let's go out there, fetch ourselves. Let's own the spaces we occupy, lead with presence in the various complex municipal spaces and local government space that we're in. Let's make a difference. Let's make an impact to the communities that we serve. It's not about us. Let us lead with visibility, ethics, integrity, and let us make a difference. Thank you very much, Yolisa Kani. Thank you to our implementation partners, UCT, Zenande leadership. Thank you to my colleagues from SAGA, Mesha Colbert, Thank you once again. This has been a dynamic, engaging, amazing opportunity, and we're really looking forward to connecting you with you further. Enjoy also the classes this afternoon. Once again, as I've responded earlier on, all issues and challenges or questions posed regarding the SAGA mandate work, we are attending to them. Watch this space. There's a lot of media alerts that are going to be coming up as we prepare for the local government elections 2021. Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned.